Hey, I'm Chase Cunningham or Dr. Cunningham or Dr. Trust, whatever. No one really cares. I'm here with Tim Prendergast from Strong DM, who's much more interesting and probably slightly better looking than I am. So, Tim, why don't you give a little bit of a background on who you are, what you do, and then we'll just go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, definitely not a future or current beauty model. So we'll leave that one up to the audience. They can do a poll at the end of this. But I'm Tim Prendergast. I'm CEO here at Strong DM. Prior to this, my whole career has been in cybersecurity. I started in cryptography, then went on to build product and then built some cloud product, worked at Palo Alto Networks for a while on their cloud division, and then took a break. And then security sucked me back into the whirlpool as it does for most of us.
Yeah, it's kind of like what was it? I think it was The Godfather Part 3, right? Where he's like, they keep pulling me back, like you just can't get
Yep.
free. I feel you. So how does one wind up taking care of the DM side of this thing? Because the DM in general, I would argue, is not really good in most market evaluations.
Yeah, I think people often say, "Hey, do you guys have really good like matchmaking services for dating?" Because DM means direct messaging for a lot of people. And
Oh,
I said, "No, but
wow.
we
So
can
that, yeah.
send a sweet note to your CISO or the person responsible for protecting your enterprise." And from my perspective, DM can mean a lot of things to different customers. But like the one thing we like to think about is you're a big company out there in the world. You've got a lot of digital estate, meaning you've got mainframe to Mongo Atlas in the cloud. You got developers running stuff. You got IT running stuff. You have like this digital metropolis you've got around your environment that stands your business up and makes it available to customers. And so I like to think if you have a strong digital metropolis, it's a great way to secure and protect the things that make money for your business and provide value to your customers. That's not what DM actually means, but
Damn,
it's
I
one of the
thought I
things
was
I
like,
like to
wow, that's
interpret.
actually a pretty good one. I was like, strong dad, the data metropolis, DM. Okay.
We had a great social campaign. And I have to give credit to our marketing team where they said, "Hey, what does DM mean to you?" And we got so many cool options. We got Dragon Matrix. We had somebody bust some sweet TikTok dance moves called Dad Moves, and I thought that was a good one. But really, it's not what does it mean verbatim, but what does it mean to you as a security practitioner? How do we help you do a better job protecting identity in your business? And I think that open to interpretation is just really a fun hook.
Well, I think so. So you had mentioned identity. So let me ask the question that anybody in the room would ask: like, isn't there already a gabillion identity security things in the market? Like, how many times we got to re-engineer this shit? Because
Man, it's a great question. Like I look at the world, and if you go out and you look at like different websites, you'll see like all these identity providers or access providers. There's a million ways you can slice this space. I think identity and IAM in general is like this big box of a bunch of misfit toys that we've kind of wedged together to solve a series of problems to answer the question, who can do what with my digital assets in my business, right? And I think when you zoom out, there's 30 or 40 years where the companies that have piled up solving niche parts of this, but not holistic solutions to the broad sweeping challenges. And we've seen markets move every 10 years or so. So you had like, it was all on-prem and mainframe the data center. So it was easy to think about AD as a great solution for identity. And then you're like, oh, well, here comes the cloud. And that blew it apart because they have a totally different interpretation of identity. And it's like, by the way, we have Kubernetes now that thinks of identity totally different than the cloud and the data center. Oh, and by the way, now we're doing like four more flavors of cloud. So those are all different. And like that's a huge problem when you're an operator trying to secure a business and provide like an easy way for people to work with all the stuff you pay for. So yeah, there's a billion, there's like 120 companies with like 1,500 solutions. And the question of like, what makes you different and why would you re-engineer this? And the answer is simple. It's like the Verizon data breach report's like, hey, look, the past 4 years running, it's stolen credentials used to breach companies. They just logged in because you guys stored it on a Confluence page. Like, that's literally the number one breach vector damaging businesses. Yeah, we sure as hell need to re-engineer it, and it needs to be done fast and efficiently and across that digital metropolis when you think about it. Because if I can protect my mainframe that runs a bunch of my business, but my cloud where I'm making all my money and all my customer data gets breached, I still failed as a business, as a security operation.
well, so then, like, I mean, how is it possible that we've had all this investment and all this other stuff in this space, and we still are scrambling at it? Like, if I go look at all the analyst reports, there's leaders and there's waves and fucking MQs and da 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 da. But like, what's the rub? I mean, this problem seems relatively finite, is what still sticks in my craw, and it's like we're investing a lot to solve a problem that should be solved.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of parts of that I think have been solved well. So and people will probably challenge me. I think like the SASE, SSE kind of providers have done a good job solving like your enterprise user getting to an enterprise resource with all those kind of zero trust context signals to help make sure I'm pretty sure that's Chase logging into SharePoint, right? Where it's fallen down is it's lost view of like the most critical functions that happen in your business. And by most critical, I don't mean like they make the most money, but I think I'm an admin. I can actually delete my whole infrastructure from my company if I was pissed off, right? Like that's a critical function that needs to be protected. And the industry that had developed and gone to market and gone public was like, here's a password. Hope you don't misuse it. And like after authentication, it just lets you go do whatever the hell you want. And that carte blanche access where we just blindly trusted people is the complete polar opposite of what we're telling companies they should be doing on the end user front, right? Enterprise browser is a version of that enterprise user secure access. But I'm thinking of this world from a problem set, and we approach from a problem set of what are the native protocols people are using to do the most impactful changes in an organization? That's like your DBAs log in via their query client of choice to work with infrastructure where your customer data and your payment data and your critical IP sits. Your SRAs and DevOps folks using Terraform and CLI-based tools to go do all their automated deployment and management of infrastructure. Like those folks were all kind of abandoned and left to kind of do it the hard way and just trusted by security teams to have to figure it out, right? Because there was an imbalance of control in that relationship. And that's the piece we haven't really solved very effectively. And like we can argue that none of it's solved effectively, but there are definitely parts that are much shabbier than others in most enterprises.
So then does this, like, somebody would probably start going like, well, what about like DevSecOps and all the other sides of this coin? I mean, this seems identity digital side of it is such a moving target. If that's a fair way to put it, that it's almost unsolvable, or is that way off?
No, I mean, I think like, look, I think if you look at all of security, and I have a great talk I gave a while back about like how firewalls have lagged innovation by 5 or 8 years on average, right? I think security in general lags innovation. And it's because we are people in a society who's like, make it work first, then make it pretty. And we just never do the second part. It's like, I hard coded the credential on that and I'm gonna go back and replace it later. Oh, never mind. It's running a billion dollar business now. I guess I can never change that, right? Those are the things that happen. They're almost a success crisis. Then you're figuring out like, how do I wrap this thing in enough layers of bubble wrap to keep it from blowing up and killing all of us? And I think that's really the thing that's happened in identity and security for so long that, yeah, we might always be chasing a genie out of the bottle and trying to stuff it back in. But we have some disproportionate advantages in the market now that let us catch up a little bit. And we have some normalization happening in some parts of the market. Like there's really good working groups. There's a lot of really cool stuff, especially around Auth0 and other things that are happening. But I think, the reason all of us have jobs in security is because it is a perpetually unsolved problem and we're all doing the best we can because the world economy marches on. People will be on TikTok and buying stuff off Roblox web store and all kinds of things like that to the end of time. And we make it as safe as we can while letting that continue unimpeded, right? Because the reality is money talks, bullshit walks. Money will drive all decisions and investments and accelerations. And security is a sub-segment of that investment that we can use to try and make it as safe as possible for the masses.
Yeah, and the other one that comes up when I start thinking about this particular side of it is the data security side of cyber. Like I would suggest in all of cyber, other than the absolute goat hump that was DLP, data security has not been well addressed. And
Yeah.
you guys are doing things in line with taking care of that, but it's a different approach.
Yeah, look, I think there's always this is, if we zoom out, just philosophically in cybersecurity, there's two approaches, right? There's the left-hand approach of, let me show you what's wrong, and then you have to fix it. Visibility. On the other side, there's the control point, which is, I can stop bad things from happening live in runtime, but I may not know everything going on around the world, so I can have blind spots and you can circumvent me. If you can merge those two solutions and those two approaches, you get a really cohesive capability to say, like, I know everything that's going on and I can stop the stuff you don't want to have happening. And I think in data security, we've struggled by always having kind of the left side of the equation. And DLP was that, let me show you what's going out the door. And I was like, well, why don't you just stop it if you can see it? And that's
Yeah,
the
what a
eternal
concept.
question, because you don't have the control point. And the reality is, and this is probably dynamics of how investment and going public and building markets happens with startups and companies. People focus on one of those two, not both. And they'll either try and acquire some footprint in the other, and those things almost never work out. But we never see a holistic, built from ground up, both sides of the equation solution for most organizations. We took a swing at this market from build control first. So we're live in flight, in protocol for everything, and we can see and stop it all, and then start building all the discovery and inventory and signal capturing that you can use to make better decisions, thinking that it's better to give people control than to show them all the problems they have. And if you're a doctor, you don't want to be like, hey, you have cancer. And someone goes, great, can you help me cure that? And they go, no, shit, I can just tell you have cancer. Good luck dying, right? Like that's not a value engagement. We want to go and be like, hey, look, we think you have cancer. We're going to put you on this treatment program to cure you. And then we're going to get better diagnostics on what's going on with your body as we go over time. It's a healthier approach to cybersecurity models for products.
Well, just for clarity's sake, the first model you have with the doctor just telling you that you have cancer and good luck dying, that's the VA healthcare model, because I'm a veteran, and let me tell you, that's pretty much how it works. Well, okay, so stepping further back, like let's from the, I guess, CEO perspective, where are we in your opinion with this market? Because tomorrow, or call it, I don't know, in the next 30 days, two more startups are going to come out of left field that are going to do something along the lines of probably some quantum shenanigans or some AI related whatever. And those will get funding, and those will be the next, cool new thing on the market. Gartner will tell them that they're a leader or whatever. Like, but folks that are doing what I would consider to be key and core things along the lines of what y'all are solving for, their avenue towards the giant paydays are way different. It's more, pushing the rock up the hill. Is that, I mean, why?
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked from a CEO perspective. I'm not a professional CEO by trade. I just like sort of fell into this by starting a company, and then like the whirlpool has sucked me into security. It's kept me in this lane. But I have an engineering background and mindset, and I just apply the business logic to it now. So when I look at it, it's easy to come out of left field, raise a bunch of money, and do something sexy and hot because the market's always got these hype cycles, right? And people are excited about AI and quantum, and there'll be some quantum AI stuff that pops up. Someone will raise $1 bajillion, and they're going to go whiz a market and do this great thing. And like the execution actually counts. You have to have a real problem that companies have to solve that has a real budget assigned to it because it actually impedes their business in one way or another. And that means they have an inability to do business because they can't get their compliance certifications or their entitlement from the government to operate as a bank or whatever it is. There's real risk, like they can lose money and customer data, and the fines are big enough they have to invest in. Like those things all have to exist for those companies to actually have a future, right? Now, on the other side, the dramatically unsexy things, like I'll use PAM as an example where we kind of started out. That is stuff that is foundational cybersecurity stuff that everyone has to do really well to be successful in any security program. But the human behavior is there's a pyramid at the bottom's all these foundational controls, and they're like, screw those, let's go buy that top of the pyramid next generation AI thingy and see if it solves all our problems because the marketing website promised it would happen. And I think that overpromise, underdeliver feels like it was almost invented in the cybersecurity space because there's a subset of marketers who are just like, it'll do everything and wash your car. And when you get to implement it, it goes, oh yeah, but only if Deloitte spends the next 100 years of your company working alongside with you, making revenue on it, right? The out of the box problem solving cybersecurity stuff is much less sexy. You don't see as much hype about it, but it's absolutely requisite for you to be successful in a security program because a house built on a shaky foundation just crumbles under you. I think we see that a lot when those breaches happen and people go back and go like, how did you not have these basic controls in place? Well, because they bought the hype cycle of like, buy the coolest new startup, buy that latest AI powered SOC thing. And that should keep my perimeter safe while my inside's a mess until I can rectify it. But that make it pretty never comes along for those cybersecurity operations, just like it never comes along for those products. It's just human behavior, right? And so I think we'll see the cycle continue. The hollow promises, the big fundraise, the new hype thing, and apply it to the security problem. And let's all pray something manifests. But if you go back to the past 15 years, I mean, we could probably sit here and just look at RSA booths and messages and watch them rotate in and out and the number of companies that rotate in and out to see how effective and durable those things are in cybersecurity.
Yeah, there should be like I don't know, a bingo card for repeat founders, I think. Because like, oh, hey, you founded a company that did X and you got bought and you did your 2 years on the roof playing hacky sack and you cashed out and now you're back and doing it again. If your amazing super contribution to the space don't really make a difference, then maybe we should, I don't know, bar you from founding another company in the same space or something.
I mean, look at the WeWork guy. I mean, I don't want to pick on people publicly, but like you bomb that thing for a ton of money and the same investors give you money again. There's something to be said for it's about how you tell the story, not the actual content of the story. I think that rings true in there.
Yeah, I watched that whole documentary and read that book on that thing, and I was like, wow. And then sure enough, I saw the thing where they gave him another chunk of money. I was going, someone, okay, like this is literacy, I guess. Sure. Okay.
My wife just said, you suck at raising money. She sees me go out and do the whole thing. And she's like, you must be terrible at this because these other people just go out and raise a bunch of money and they burn down a few businesses. And it's, that's why I say it's about how sexy it is. It doesn't have to do with the fundamentals most of the times. Investors look at a return. They look at a return profile and say, hey, look, can you get 100x on this? And the answer historically has not been yes in a lot of these core identity businesses. A lot of them actually struggle to get to $1 million in ARR, $5 million in ARR. And so you see really cool, innovative stuff that would fix this, just never get the commercial traction. And then they end up bankrupt or bought in by a bigger company and kind of drown in a platform of other features. And I think there's been a ton of identity vision, but there's not been a ton of identity execution.
Well, somebody just spent a metric assload of money on a company that does this. So I hope that plays out because Lord knows we need something better. Okay, so furthering on to this, you guys have got zero trust stuff all over your website, and I think
Yep.
you've got a valid claim in that space. But explain for the 3 people that listen to me blather on, like, what does ZT look like for you guys at Strong DM?
Oh, for sure. And hopefully it stays 3 or maybe goes to 4, and I don't reduce your viewer count to 1 after my god awful explanation that's about to hit. Really, and John Kindervog, if you listen to this, I apologize in advance. Sitting next to you all those years and laughing at people who had zero trust in their product name, and here I am. Zero Trust PAM, as we positioned things, was really the context of, if you look at being inline and making real-time continuous authorization level decisions on what a privileged principal can do, actions they're taking and the resources they're accessing, and you can make like Chase should be able to do that. He can still do that now. He can still do that now. Yeah, oh no, he can't do that much. Like, pull him back. Like, that level of shaping what privilege looks like in real time using signal was really what Zero Trust PAM is for Strong DM. We want to take admins and developers and people in marketing and finance and people who are just accessing those critical assets inside of every business and not constrain them, but reduce their permission set to the minimum viable set. So they're actually just doing work without feeling that friction of jump through 10 flaming hoops and crawl through broken glass to check out a password kind of legacy pattern. Just use their native tools. And when we hit a place where we think they're getting outside of their normal bounds of operation, popping them up to some level of healthy friction to gain more context or approval for them to continue that work. And like in cybersecurity, so much of things have been like, once you have the credential, you're God and you can go do whatever the hell you want until I go snatch your laptop or I blow away my firewall state table and screw everyone else out of their connection. It's just untenable for most companies, right? They couldn't even find it if they wanted to because the sprawl is so big. But in a world where you're like, hey, I know Chase is this one entry in our Okta, and as soon as he's in this group, he has access to this subset of resources and can go work with it however he wants. And if I want to blow that away, I just remove him from that group and he's instantly severed from that access. That level of fine-grained control combined with what we understand about your identity and the rights it should have at any point in time, that's what it means for us. And I think it's what makes it so different is we're just not a door where it's like, hey, did you knock? Okay, open the door, go through Chase, burn the house down. It's like, no, we're going to open the door and you can only go here into the kitchen. You can only open the fridge. You only get 2 beers and then you're done, right? Like that's the level of granularity you need for these privileged entities. Because it's not just people anymore. We're starting to see privileged entity expand really rapidly. But it went from just the IT people to IT and DevOps or DevSecOps to a very broad set of personas inside the enterprise.
So what are the other personas that you're starting to see? Like when we're thinking about this, most people would say, admin people, network geeks, and cybersecurity folks, but your point on others are getting accesses and whatever else. How's that playing out?
Yeah, I mean, like definitely like your IT geeks, your Cisco core networks, routing, switching admins, like all those people are really important and they build that circulatory system that keeps your business alive. Then there's like all the other systems that make it possible. Like your respiratory system is really your finance team. They're working on SAP in the cloud. They're using all kinds of tools that are no longer just in your data center. And they're definitely have access to really confidential privileged information. I like to think of like, basically if you're in a public company, you can look at forward forecasts for the next couple quarters and say, hey, look, I could internally as an insider play the stock market based on what I understand is going to happen in our forecast going on because I have access to that confidential data. So like being able to restrict how much certain people have and what they should be using it for and making sure it's job related is really critical. We're seeing marketing teams use things like Google BigQuery to do AdSense analytics and drive spend shift as they figure out what words are working and what aren't. Like you're seeing real big data infrastructure and real cloud-centric scale, database and data warehousing used by a lot of folks. I used to be like, hey, it's not just for IT geeks anymore. Like when your CFO is in, SAP in the cloud or is working on like BigQuery to do big analytics on stuff, you actually see some really interesting results. And those businesses outperform companies where it's like, no, I'm just staying in QuickBooks all the time.
So then sprawl is getting worse in your opinion or more?
I think sprawl is getting real. I wouldn't say it's worse. I think it's actually better for business and success. It's just worse for the security practitioners because now they have to say, okay, my 20-year-old solution, or God, in some states, like 50-year-old solution, now needs to be switched over to something that actually supports more than just the person who can take his 2-week certification course to use it. And that's that shift from like these 90s to 2000 era design systems, something that's now like comprehends on-prem, hybrid, and pure cloud scenarios and how users have to work with those environments without being retrained or having 18 different, like there's a flow chart on a piece of paper says like, if I'm in Starbucks and I need to get to the Cincinnati Oracle instance, I get on this VPN and then I jump into this jump host. And I like, there's the 7 labors of Hercules you do to actually just do your job. And that is exactly why people say, no, forget it. I'm just going to create a backdoor account and log directly.
Yeah. Okay. So tangential to that would be, is this only an is this only an enterprise big govy problem, or is this an SMB? Everybody has to deal with this thing.
I think it's an everyone problem. It's like the one problem we all agree on as businesses. Like, okay, cool. I started a company as a founder. How long until I shouldn't have just root to everything, right? Like that's the kind of question companies deal with. And it's different for every industry. And enterprises, I think of as just like an amalgamation of a bunch of startups. Like whether you have business units or you have inorganic acquisitions, they're all just a bunch of companies running with their own leadership structure, their own tech decision trees. And very rarely do I see a big enterprise like, we shall all use Golang and Kubernetes only, and that's it. And like, that just doesn't exist. There's a messy middle where you have generational layers of technology built up over time, all for very good reasons that are not going to be retired or can't be retired fast enough that you have to support and maintain. And some of them is like, I do $1 billion a year on this mainframe infrastructure. And so I'm just never going to touch it and hope it never dies. And I have to buy more mainframe to keep it alive because I don't need to move that business off. I'm focused over here building my next $1 billion business in the cloud. And having both those things coexist is actually a very natural thing.
Yeah, the formula for Coke, right? That no one will touch because it's written down on a piece of parchment in blood or something or whatever, and just don't touch it. Okay. Well, then, like, if I always try and get the point across to folks that this is a zero trust and kind of the smart approach to cyber is a more, call it, simplistic approach, then most people get freaked out. Like, in your opinion, what does good and simple security look like for somebody that's dealing with these issues? Because there's a lot of stuff I go out there and buy that says that it's sexy, and I turn it on, and magically the security fairies, piss, dust, sprinkles all over my stuff. But like, what does it actually look like?
Look, I think like the eternal trade-off has been like, oh, you can have usability or security. Like that seems like bullshit to me. Like we've done a very good job, and I've seen other companies do a very good job with this. You can have people use the tools and the workflows that they naturally will. Like I'm not going to teach someone who graduates from college to come out and be like, no, I have to retrain you to use Corel WordPerfect. You can't use Google Docs anymore. Like it makes no sense. You lose all
They would
that.
hang themselves if
They
Corel.
would, right?
Yeah.
You lose all that muscle memory, you lose all that efficiency and all that skill they've built up, and you force them into a bucket. Like use the tools you want to use that you love. We will support those flows naturally, and we will inject all the necessary security wrappers and controls around that so you can do your job more effectively. So you end up with a audience or a customer internally at your organization that is using the database query tool they want. They're on native SSH. They're using whatever RDP native client that they love. And they do their work effectively and happy without feeling like they're being forced or shoved through like the Cheeto die and extruded out the other side to make security happy. At the same time, security is getting unprecedented levels of control because they're getting fine-grained down to the action level controls over stuff based on everything they know about that person without them even realizing it's happening. So like that trade-off of gaining productivity and gaining control doesn't happen very often. And that's like the hallmark of a product done right and done in an elegant way. It's easy to say, but it's a real pain in the ass to build technology that works that way. I mean, you all have an example you have of like, great, I just deploy this thing and it's great and makes my life easy, but security shits on it because it doesn't meet their needs. Like being able to do both means you get your cake and eat it too. And like security doesn't want to go around clubbing people with the wiffle ball bat. Like they don't want you to be, they want to be shunned for lunch. They don't want to not get a cookie on their birthday or all this stuff. They don't want to like get a burning bag of shit on their doorstep. Like they want to be like, hey, I'm trying to help you and I'm trying to help the business.
I think Richard Berg, good friend of mine, he was like, brakes make cars go faster. It's like that. Yeah, true. Like if you don't have good brakes, it's not a good time to go fast. Okay, so I like to keep these, relatively, I call them the toilet rules, right? If you can't listen to it while you're sitting on the shitter. So where can folks run into Strong DM? You guys have some events coming up. I think you made a pretty big press announcement about you guys brought on a heavy hitter. Like, what's all that about?
Oh, yeah. Let me give you a couple plugs, right? So first off, big shout out to Rinky Sethi. She's a phenomenal security leader. Just joined our board of directors to help us represent the voice of the customer and the needs that people who are operating out there are struggling with, balancing the budget, figuring out how to make identity work for their users. Just love having people like that contribute and help us do a better job every day. That's a press release just launched today. We also have 2 Strong DM live events coming up, one in Atlanta on October 16th. So if you're in the ATL crew, please reach out or go to strongdm.com and we'll have material on how you can sign up for that there. We're going to have a fantastic crew out there just representing the Atlanta security community, having a great chat with us about some of these concepts. Then we have a marquee version of that event in New York City, October 23rd. If anyone wants to go to that one, please, once again, hit me up on LinkedIn or hop on our website and sign up. It's going to be a banger of an event. We're going to announce a bunch of cool stuff and have a bunch of great speakers coming in that just aren't me blathering on and reducing the number of audience members on certain podcasts.
Well, yeah, I was gonna go to the one in New York. I would love to. Unfortunately, I got to do some like travel and take care of family stuff and whatever. But yeah, I was just for the folks that are listening. I was gonna go to that because it would be a good one. So
Yeah, we'll have like a hot dog eating contest if you show up or something, Chase. We'll
I
do something.
mean, yeah, I can eat a lot. So you got to be careful.
It's not my budget; it's marketing's budget. It's all good.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So, folks that are listening to this, you're trying to solve these problems. You think that there's probably a better way to do, take care of this, which there has to be. I would say look up Strong DM. This is not a sponsored podcast. I just think that they're doing legit stuff and they're actually solving a problem where the problem lies. So, reach out, strongdm.com, look for Tim. And he said it's okay to ping him on LinkedIn. So, ping him on LinkedIn and I don't know, send him stuff that you wouldn't send other people or something. But
Send me a meme or something. I keep it spicy, y'all.
yeah, and he's okay with. I would say that we were joking about the Cartman episode and the ginger stuff or whatever.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've unfortunately been a redhead my whole life, so I'm used to it. So if you got a new one, I'll send you a Strong DM shirt or something if I haven't seen it before. I'll love it.
There you go. So if you got a good joke, send it over to Tim, and he's a good guy. So there you go, folks. All right, well, look up strongdm.com. I'm Chase Cunningham. Tim, thanks for jumping on here, and we'll see where we go on the next one.
Yeah, rock on. Appreciate it.